and the events correct and the interpretations correct. Another thing too, speaking a word, speech can be very, very important. People are called to war sometimes by a grand proclamation. Crusades are other things too. We could call it to go to the moon. We have great political speeches. So sometimes when a word is given to us, it may have some eloquence, but sometimes it also has a great power to inspire. And I think that was probably the experience that took place. We don't know why they were weeping, by the way. There's no telling of why everybody was weeping when Nehemiah had Ezra read the scroll. Although there is some suspicion, that sometimes when you hear a great truth, it overwhelms you. You tear up. I think that's a human experience that we all have. That we hear something that's overwhelmingly good, we kind of tear up because it's too good to be true almost. And I think that is the word that Christ speaks to us. First of all, his announcement is something I think that is given not only for his mission to help us understand it, but for the mission that each of us have as his followers. He comes first of all with the power of the Spirit to speak a word to the whole human family in a way that he's presenting God inside out. That he is revealing to us the heart of God. And what does this mean? We see this rabbi from Nazareth making this proclamation. And the invitation is for us to get God straight, because in our own minds we don't do well. And the first thing that he says, God is good news, not bad news. We've got so much bad news all around in our lives. And he's saying, this is good news for the human soul. Something that's going to be really uplifting and caring. Not punishing and putting down. It's liberating. So God's first gift is good news to us. And it's good news for the poor. And I don't think it just means those who are physically poor or in poverty. It's something a little bit different. He's always asking us to go a little bit deeper. And that each of us as human beings literally have a hole in the heart. And things don't satisfy. Regretfully, even people don't satisfy. Only God can satisfy the hole in the heart. It's a yearning for the infinite. And the gift is given that this God is going to give us God's own heart. Literally, the vision is to give us God's own heart for us. That our own lives can be on the way toward a fulfillment that takes place really in everlasting life. But a God who's saying, I know your yearnings, the deepest yearnings you have. And then he says, liberty from captives. Well, we don't feel that we're captive, or do we? We all have burdens. We all have problems. I think we all carry crosses. We all have splintered the cross. And Christ is saying, my mission is your liberation from anything that would hold you back from the compassionate gift of my Father's heart to you. That I liberate you from everything that holds you back. I want you to grow to become the human being that I ask you to become by the gift of creation. And then he says, this is the mission that I invite you all to be participants of. That you help liberate each other. You bring good news, that heart of God, to everyone you meet. And in these days, I think we have a poignant reminder of how to be God's heart. And of course, I'm talking about Haiti. There's some bad theology floating around, and we Catholics should clean it up right away. It's either that this is God's punishment, you might hear some preachers saying that, or God's absence. And in our thinking, it's neither. It's neither God's punishment, because Jesus says, that's not my Father. My Father doesn't do things like that. And we live in a natural world where earthquakes take place, regretfully, whether it be in San Francisco years ago, or in Haiti now, or tsunamis in Indonesia. Great disasters take place and human life is affected. And to say that God's punishment would make a monster out of God. God doesn't do that to human beings. It's regretfully the gravity of the life we live on, literally the gravity of it. So what about that other part? God's absent. He doesn't care. And Christ will only give us this answer, the cross. That in our deepest sufferings, God hangs in there with us, not abandoning us, but being there with us in the deepest sufferings. And what does he call out for then? That we who are his messengers, his ambassadors, his witnesses, would be like the woman who wiped the face of the crucified Christ at Veronica. That we're called to wipe the face of those who are suffering. We're called out to give the compassion and love. And we see that immensely done by so many men and women who are working in Haiti right now, caring and loving and giving compassion. That, I think, is the answer of why God is with us. To give us both to be with in the suffering and give us the strength to respond in a way of a loving, compassionate heart. That we show that heart of God. I'd like to share a personal experience. Some of you know I worked overseas in the missions, both in Mexico and Guatemala, Africa. And during the Guatemala earthquake in 1976, the Erie Diocese has a mission in the Yucatan. And I had a number of nurses and doctors and everybody working in that area. And when the earthquake hit in Guatemala, it was as devastating as the one in Haiti. Just immense, massive destruction. And the entire team was asked to go to give assistance. So they all loaded up literally on the back of an old B-52 that was hollowed out. And they joined a number of Red Cross people from living in the area or flowing into Mexico. And from Merida, they went and hopped into Guatemala City, literally on the back of that B-52, all strapped in. Harrowing experience. There's a young nurse by the name of Ann Parks. I think she's married by now, from Punxsutawney. If she comes across, I'm going to try to find her just to give her experiences. She handled it well. Well, anyway, they have this whole crew down there, and then I went with a group of construction workers a couple of days afterwards. Landed in Guatemala City. Catholic Relief picked us up, and they had a small building where we were able to stay overnight before we went to the tent city, like Red Cross puts out. Just before leaving Erie, an old nun by the name of Sister Peter came running up. Old nuns can run sometimes. And she's in her 80s. She comes running up, and she has this package. And I had a knapsack on in back of my neck. I'm at Erie Airport. She says, "This is for all the people working there." And she stuck it in my knapsack because I was running around and put the knapsack on. Those are the days we didn't have all the controls at airports. You just came right on. Got there. I remember landing in Guatemala. The first thing that happened, we went to try to sleep in this place. And the aftershocks were so bad, we were literally being thrown out of our beds at night. And when you're thrown out of your bed at night in an aftershock, the first thing you want to run for is a doorway, because the doorway is your safest spot in a structure. And everybody in the house was saying, "Hear my confession, Father, hear my confession." I had more absolutions going on, and my own contrition, making my act of contrition with all these guys and kids that were there. So we were all asking God's mercy to save us. It was a mess. Though everybody got fine, though. We got out to that tent city. It was massive, absolutely massive. Saw all these people working day and night. Found the tent where the Erie kids and doctors and nurses were. And the weariness, they were on like 24 hours going on day after day, giving injections, giving help. And after lots of hugs and kisses and being welcoming together, I remember, Sister Peter had a special gift. So I thought, what would a nun give? Rosaries, holy cards, something like that, scapulars. So I opened it up, and to all of our surprise, it was a bottle of Four Roses whiskey. That nun knew what she was about. And everybody kind of jumped for joy. That tent became the most popular tent in the city. I saw people like Mother Teresa's and full nuns in full habits coming with teacups. It was good thinking in tragedy that even a sense of relief and humor to get us through the dark comes from a great compassionate heart. She was right on key. in our own way, I think Christ invites us to bring our own 4 roses, to the community that is struggling. And it doesn't have to be something hugely financial. It has to be something of the heart. We're called to be Christians, followers of the Christ. He invites us to join his mission and his promise, everlasting life.